After becoming known and respected by the American financial market, where he worked post decades, Bernie Madoff shocked the world when his scheme of financial pyramid, or Ponzi, was revealed in 2008. For nearly 20 years, Bernie Madoff managed to fool thousands of people, between anonymous and celebrities, rich and poor. But how did this scheme work? And how could Bernie Madoff run this scheme for 40 years? Keep watching until the end because that is what we are going to discover in this video. Who is Bernie Madoff? The son of an immigrant couple from Eastern Europe, Bernie Madoff was born and raised in New York. He started his career in the financial market at the age of 22 with $5,000 he had earned while working during his summer vacation as a garden sprinkler installer. He created Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities in 1960. The company became one of the most responsible for the information of this market in the United States by bridging the gap between those who buy and those who sell shares. Madoff was also a chairman of the Nasdaq Stock Exchange. Many of his wealthiest clients were won over in club conversations with the wealthiest in New York or Florida. Madoff gave them a sense of belonging to a privileged circle. He used these big names to attract other investors until his influence spread large to banks, funds, and even charitable organizations. As one of the largest investors in the world, Madoff managed about $17 billion with his company. But, according to the complaint made by the United States Attorney General, he reportedly told employees that the company had been insolvent for years. No one seems to know for sure what has happened to all the money involved in Madoff's scams since the early 1990s. To the American Federal Public Ministry, he would have said that he had absolutely nothing. Their operations were in fact quite obscure. In addition to his original company, he ran a completely independent financial advisory firm. He never really revealed his methods operating on the market or how he generated substantial profits for the investors he represented. In good or bad times, he was able to pay 10% or more of profitability every year. It is a strategy of my business. I cannot give too many details, he said once. Investigations pointed out that the business strategy was to use money from new investors to pay dividends to older ones. Known in the market as a financial pyramid scheme, this form of operation is unsustainable in the long run and, above all, illegal. With the passing of the years and the sophistication of the financial markets, Madoff's society gained dimension and became a family business, with the support of his wife and the appointment of his two children to executive positions. As soon as the Lehman Brothers collapsed and generated one of the biggest financial disruptions in the history of the American economy, with hundreds of bankruptcies and abrupt falls in the stock market, the pyramid set up by Madoff collapsed, with strong pressure to return money to panicked investors, be offset by receipts at the base where new application inflows dried up immediately. Madoff confessed to his crimes to his two children when everything started to fall apart. They reported him to the police, who arrested him the next day on December 11, 2008, while covering Manhattan. Most of those involved would eventually come to terms with the investigators, including his wife, having been convicted of various crimes but not for knowing the outline of the scam. The bank that most collaborated with Madoff, JP Morgan Chase, also reached an agreement with the victims and agreed to pay $2.6 to the US government for not implementing measures that would have triggered the alarm about the action of the wealth manager. Regulatory loopholes. But how did this situation not raise suspicions by regulators before? The answer probably involves a combination of Madoff's personal prestige and his careful exploration of certain loopholes in the system. As a former president of Nasdaq with a collection of other boards in the curriculum and a generous donor to charitable causes, he was a man who inspired confidence. As for regulators, the SEC regularly inspected Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities, but not its financial advisory firm, which managed a hedge fund. Hedge funds are more speculative and riskier investments than conventional financial products, but they often bring higher returns. This Madoff fund was not registered with the SEC until September 2006 and which, according to reports, was never subject to inspection after that. Madoff reportedly told the FBI, the US Federal Police, that there was no innocent explanation for the collapse of his investment scheme. In 2011, in an interview with the New York Times, he said that banks and funds that negotiated with his investment advisory firm preferred to maintain a deliberate blindness in relation to their criminal activities. Their attitude was something like, "If you're doing something wrong, we don't want to know," said Madoff, without specifying which companies he was referring to. Legacy of shame. In June 2009, Madoff was found guilty of 11 crimes, including fraud and money laundering. During the trial, he said he initially expected the scheme to be practiced only for a limited period. Madoff admitted his guilt before the court and apologized for the legacy of shame he brought to his family and the financial market. "I realized that my arrest and this day would inevitably come," he declared. When his sentence was handed down, applause and shouting was heard in the courtroom. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel to not lose any more videos like this. See you in the next one.